At 74 years old, Crystal Gayle finally decided it was time to speak her truth. For decades, she remained silent about the triumphs and heartbreaks that defined her rise to fame, and about the complicated relationship with her legendary sister, Loretta Lynn. To the outside world, the Webb sisters seemed like country music royalty, destined to shine together forever. But behind the sequins, gold records and magazine covers lay years of distance, quiet resentment, and a bond that was tested again and again. Now Crystal is pulling back the curtain. She's sharing the story of love and rivalry, of sisterhood and silence, of heartbreak and healing. It's the story country music fans never expected to hear, the story of Crystal Gayle and Loretta Lynn. Crystal Gayle was born Brenda Gayle Webb, the youngest of 8 children raised in the coal mining community of Butcher Hollow, Kentucky. From an early age, music was her escape. She sang in church, recorded demo tapes, and performed folk songs during her teenage years. But by the time she was stepping timidly into the music industry, Loretta was already a star. Her big sister's shadow loomed over every stage Crystal walked onto. Still, Loretta encouraged her. She told Crystal to sing to chase her dream. And when Crystal was only 16, Loretta even asked her to perform at the Grand Ole Opry in her place when illness kept her off the stage. For Crystal, it was a moment of both pride and pressure. Because every time she stepped onto a stage, people whispered that she was only there because of her sister. That couldn't have been further from the truth. Crystal wanted to earn her place. While Loretta's music carried the grit and honesty of the coal country they grew up in, Crystal sought a different path. With her long, flowing hair and soft, velvety vocals, she leaned toward a polished pop country style. It wasn't long before people began calling it countrypolitan. Her voice was warm, smooth, and refined. It made her stand apart, but it also made her a target. At first, the industry didn't know what to make of her. Traditionalists said she had abandoned her roots. Even Loretta herself questioned the change. What started as a sister's guidance slowly turned into tension. Publicly they smiled together, appearing united. Privately the distance grew. By the late 70s their careers had taken different paths. Loretta remained the unshakable voice of traditional country. Crystal, meanwhile, was skyrocketing into crossover stardom with hits like Don't It Make My Brown Eyes Blue. Fans adored the contrast, but behind the curtain, the sisters were drifting apart. They missed holidays. They ignored phone calls. Sometimes they showed up at family events but left at different times. Loretta was bold and outspoken, the matriarchal figure who commanded every room. Crystal was quieter, more reserved, careful not to stir the pot. But deep down, she resented being constantly compared to her sister. In an interview years later, Crystal admitted, "I loved my sister, but love doesn't mean you always understand each other." That single line revealed the depth of their unspoken pain. Backhand index pointing right, and that brings up a question worth asking. Do you think sibling rivalries, especially in families where both are famous, are inevitable? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious to know what you think. Through the 1980s, Crystal built her own identity, racking up awards, Grammy nominations, and an international fan base. But the criticisms never stopped. Nashville insiders whispered that Loretta disapproved of Crystal's glamorous image, her jeweled gowns, floor-length hair, and stage presence that looked more Hollywood than Kentucky. To many, Loretta was the voice of the working class, while Crystal was cast as the polished star who left those roots behind. But privately, Crystal longed for her sister's approval. She watched Loretta on TV, scanning her face for signs of pride. She admitted, "I always wanted her to be proud of me. But sometimes I felt like I had to prove I wasn't betraying where we came from." That weight never left her. By the early 80s, the rift was undeniable. They shared stages but never dressing rooms. They smiled for cameras but spoke little backstage. Even at award shows, when Crystal was nominated for major honors, Loretta was sometimes absent. Insiders said Loretta feared the family's legacy was slipping away, that Crystal's future might erase the past she fought so hard to preserve. Still, Crystal persevered. She broke barriers for female artists, appearing on mainstream television, drawing in global audiences, and securing her place as a crossover icon. Yet, every achievement carried a shadow. With every applause came the thought, would Loretta have done it differently? Despite the distance, Crystal never stopped loving her sister. And in the final years of Loretta's life, something changed. The years of rivalry softened. Pride gave way to compassion. Crystal began visiting more often, calling more frequently, and by the time Loretta fell ill, she was at her side. Gone were the flashing cameras and public smiles. In those quiet hospital rooms, Crystal held her sister's hand, brushed her hair, and softly sang the hymns they once sang as barefoot girls in Kentucky. The reconciliation wasn't grand or dramatic, it was gentle, silent, and real. For Crystal it was enough. She no longer needed to prove herself. She simply needed to be there. When Loretta passed, the world mourned a legend. But Crystal mourned something deeper. She lost not just her sister, but her last connection to the childhood home that shaped them both. She lost the one person who had known her before the fame. In the weeks that followed, Crystal finally began to open up. She revealed that Loretta carried secrets to her grave, and left others in Crystal's care. Loretta had given her an old leather binder filled with unreleased songs, lyrics and letters too personal for the public eye. "Do what you think is right," Loretta had told her. Crystal still hasn't revealed what she'll do with it, but fans know it is her sister's most sacred gift. Crystal also revealed the darker side of their careers, the way the industry pitted them against each other, comparing looks, voices, and record sales. "It was poison," Crystal said. "And for a long time we both drank it." Only in their later years did they find peace, letting go of comparisons to simply be sisters again. And that's the truth Crystal wants the world to understand. Her story isn't about being trapped in Loretta Lynn's shadow. It's about honoring her sister's light while finding her own. It's about survival, forgiveness, and family. Today, at 74, Crystal Gayle continues to perform worldwide. She tours with her silver hair shining just as brightly as her songs, carrying with her not just her own legacy, but also the legacy of her sister. Wherever she goes, she keeps Loretta's memory alive, not as a rival but as the sister who taught her to dream. Because in the end, it was never really about fame or rivalry or even music charts. It was about two little girls from Kentucky who found themselves on the world's biggest stages, but who never stopped being sisters. And that is the untold story of Crystal Gayle and Loretta Lynn.